Hello and welcome to another playthrough video. This time we're doing Rebel Fury, designed by Mark Herman, produced by GMT Games. We're playing Wilderness. This scenario is one that's fascinated me for a while, for a couple of reasons. One, there's not a lot of games out there that deal with the wilderness. The handful, some at the strategic level, some at the campaign level, but nothing really down lower than that as much that's out there. I know there's a few coming out. I know there's GMT's coming out with Stepping into Hell for the Great Battles of American Civil War series, and I know MMP's coming out with their version of the Wilderness there as well. So there will be some coming out here, but we've got one right here in Rebel Fury that I'm going to be playing. And this is a nice little scenario. I like it because I think it's a good introduction to the series. I started this out when I got the game way back in the day, and I got a little stymied by the rules. But recently, I've had a little tutorial from Mark Herman himself, and appreciate that from him. And that has kind of set me straight in terms of the game and how to play the combat. And the maneuver I kind of figured out already, but combat was the real sticking point, and kind of get it now. So I'm going out and giving this one a try, showing you folks how this plays. I think you'll find it's very interesting because it fits to the historical narrative fairly well, and I'll point that out as we get to it. And also gives a good view of just how the game plays and how it's all about the maneuver within here as well. So it'll be very interesting to see. So to start out here, we're looking at the map, which is another nice feature of this. It's a very nice looking, functional, yet historically looking map. I've zoomed it out here a little bit so you can see all the details here of the wilderness. And you can see up here we have the Rapidan River. We have Grant already across the river a little bit. We have the second corps up here in this general vicinity. And then we have the 5th Corps and the 6th Corps just crossing the river here as well. A few cavalry regiments out here as well. We'll have the 9th Corps coming in a little bit later on. From the Confederate perspective, we have the 2nd Corps over here, Ewell's 2nd Corps coming up on the Orange Turnpike. We also have the 3rd Corps down here under AP Hill coming up the Orange Plank Road to try to attack. And then we'll also have the 1st Corps and the rest of the 3rd Corps coming in on later turns. So the objectives for this particular scenario, again, is to eliminate units. That will actually get victory points. One division, you can see here, Griffin or Early or anybody like that, counts as 3 points if they're eliminated by the end of the game. And those points will add up. But strategically, the victory conditions are that Grant has a line, basically a line of communication, line of supply, whatever you want to call it, from his crossing here at the Rapidan River down here to this hex where WHF Lee is with his cavalry, and basically has a line of communications down here, no more than 30 hexes, excuse me, 35 hexes, heading down here. That's the strategic victory for the Union, or for Grant. For Lee and the Confederates, what they want to do is get up here and try to occupy the Union crossings, the pontoon bridges up here, and kind of cut off that supply line. If they are able to do that, they will get a strategic victory, and that will counteract the Union strategic victory there as well. So those are the two things that they're going for. So it's going to be a lot of maneuver, because you can actually see the Union is strung out here along the Germanna Ford Road up here, coming into the Wilderness Tavern area over here. Excuse me. And they'll try to make their way down through here. Now, if I zoom in here a little bit, you'll see some of the features here. The roads are basically these white strips going through here. Green is the woods, of course. The thin brown lines are secondary roads and or trails that go across here. All of those are accessible by the troops. And also we have the unfinished railroad, which also acts as a road for them as well. So it's very important. Those roads will be very important, as we'll see as we go along here. You can also see we've got some blue lines. Those are going to be our streams, runs, creeks, etc. That will kind of cut through here as well. So it's pretty basic. And then of course the open areas are just that. They're open areas, and they will have an effect in terms of how we position for combat and things like that. So that's basically the lay of the land for the start. There is a couple special rules I'll go into here in just a couple moments. It's a very simple game. I don't know if you have seen it or played it. You'll know this, but it's an extremely simple system, but yet it's very complex in terms of once you get into it. You can see here I brought up the sequence of play. A very easy sequence of play here. You can see there's a command phase with a whole bunch of things that we'll go through. There's an organizational phase, which couples on with the command phase, and then we get into movement, and we get into attacking, and then we end, and then we go on to the next turn. So it's very simple like that, and I'll go through each one of those in detail as we're playing along, and we'll go into them now. In terms of the game lengths, bring up this track here. We could see down here we're playing the Spotsylvania. If I zoom in here a little bit, wilderness map. And here's the wilderness turn track. You can see there's only 4 turns. Each turn is a half a day, either the morning or the afternoon / evening, and then morning, afternoon / evening. So we've got 4 of them here. You can see we've got our reinforcements, the 9th Corps, and then the 1st Corps / 3rd Corps reinforcements coming in on here as well. So this will play pretty quick. But at the same time, it's pretty tricky because you've got to position, you've got to think ahead, you've got to maneuver, and get yourself in the position that you want to be in before your opponent gets into his position that he wants to be in. So I'm going to try to illustrate this. I'm playing this solo, so it's a little bit more difficult, but you can see it solos pretty well. You'll kind of twist your own brain around with everything, but it'll play very well here as we move along. So with that, let's get right into it. Now I've recorded these already on Vassal, so I'm just going to play these out and give you a narrative to what is actually going on here. So first off, we do have some special rules. First big special rule here is Lee gets first 6 unit movements for free, meaning he can move up to 6 units, whatever units you want, even the same unit 6 times if you wanted to, for free. So that's a big special rule. Second special rule, I mentioned about the sequence of play. Well, for the first turn, the command and organization phase will be skipped, and we will go right to that movement. So we'll go right into Lee actually moving there. So our headquarters units, both Lee and Grant up here, Grant is here, Lee is down here, they will be kind of locked into the maneuver mode for this first turn. Now there's 2 modes that they can be in. One is battle, one is maneuver. They are in maneuver mode here, and what that does is gives them a lot more range of movement. So if I put the command radius on for Lee, you can see his movement radius is 15 hexes, going way up to there and all the way down to there and even off the board. Means that his units within 15 hexes can basically have freedom of movement. If they can't go out of the 15 range, they must stop at the edge here. If they get close, they can't go outside of it. If they are already outside, they must move towards the inside of it. So you can see that's Lee's command range, and we'll just quickly look at Grant's command range here up to the north. You can see he's got quite a bit of freedom of movement, but you notice that the 2nd Corps over here is out of range. So if these guys want to move, they won't move any further east. They will have to move back towards Wilderness Church here or somewhere into the shaded area for them to be in range. Or they could just stay where they are. They don't have to move. They could just stay where they are, and they'll be perfectly fine. So both of them in maneuver. So we're going to take advantage of that capability here first off with this. And I mentioned the special rules there. Those are the only two, but they're important. So let's get started. We're going to go right into the maneuver. And there I made a note that they're skipped. And then the first unit to move is actually going to be early A. Now, each one of these divisions, I should mention, each one of these units are a division. And those divisions basically are the combat units that we will play with here. Now you see there's very little information on here, very minimalistic. You can see we've got the name early A. There's an A and a B division. The number 2 there is that second corps. That's part of the second corps. That'll be important for combat. You can see there's a gold star. That's the troop quality. You can see this little W above the star. That is for wilderness. And then you see its starting location in 2123 over on the right. And then the number 4, which is its movement points. You also see a top-down view of marching Confederate soldiers. That shows you're in a maneuver mode, which they get 4 movement points with that. So with that, we're going to get early started, and he's going to move his 4 movement points. Now, in this case, he's on the road, too, so that gives him a little bit of special capabilities. Seeing as he's on the road, he's in maneuver, and as long as he stays away from Union units, he can actually double his movement. So he's going to move up to 8 hexes, and road hexes are just 1 movement point each. And he's going to come up here, and actually he's moved too far, so he's going to move back. He's going to stop right there. Now, he can't move into that hex that who is this? Griffin A is in. And these 2 hexes radiating out from Griffin and also radiating out from Early are considered zones of control and zone of influence. First hex next to him is zone of control. Second hex is zone of influence. Reverse is for Griffin. Zone of control, zone of influence. So he can't move into that because he's using road movement. So he's got to stop right there. He could also move into the woods as well, but if he does, he's going to flip into his battle mode, which we don't want to do that quite yet. And I'll continue to explain as we go along. So now let's go to the next one, which is going to be early B. And he is going to move up the road as well. He is going to come up here, and notice he goes a little bit different direction to go off-road a little bit and comes up to there. All right. So early B has moved up into the woods. Now he followed the road, and he could do that. If he follows the road or the secondary roads or trails, he could still move up to his 8 movement points from there. Okay, now we move on to our third move, and that's going to be Hampton over here. He's got his cavalry, so they actually have movement points of 6, but if he stays on the road, he's got actually 12. So he's going to move up there, staying on the road, but staying out of range. Now he has to stop there because you can see here's zone of control, or zone of influence, zone of control, and then the enemy unit. So he's got to stop there. Then we're going to get WHF Lee going up here, and he can move 12. So he goes all the way up to there, positions himself around this ford as a kind of a blocking unit. And then we're going to get Hill moving up the orange plank road. And this is where I had a little bit of a mistake with Vassal here, so bear with me a second. We had 2 units selected. And let's do that again. And here comes Heath up to there. And then our last move is we're going to get Fitzhugh to move down here, back in command radius of Lee himself. Because when you use them, my strategy here with the Confederates is using the cavalry over here, way over on the right-hand side, as kind of a blocking force in case the Second Corps decides to dash down here in here. Now, it's a little bit tricky because they don't have the range to move over there, but they can still move back to the Brock Road and start moving down there. So Fitzhugh Lee is going to come back here to try to block in there. Okay, so that's all of our special moves. So now it's going to go over to the USA or Grant for his first move. Now each move is only going to be one movement of a unit or a division. So this first move is going to be Grant's, and then it'll flip back over to Lee again. So we're going to take Griffin. He's going to come down the road and challenge early. So when he moves into that zone of influence, which he just did right here, he has to now change into what's called battle mode. And you notice he flips over, and now he's got a line instead of a column. And you can see the movement has changed from 4 to 1. It's still Griffin A, and he's still part of the 5th Corps, but now his movement capabilities have changed quite a bit. Okay. So now we're back over to Lee. He is going to move Hampden up and do the same thing. Now this is important because with both of these, Griffin moving here and Hampden moving up there, and let's actually get him to flip. There we go. What that's going to do is extend both the zone of influences for the Union on here and for the Confederates up here over here to kind of start blocking the Confederates from coming up the road here. And from the Confederate perspective, Hampden's cavalry is going to exert its zone of control over the Orange Plank Road leading to Germanna Ford right over here. So his influence now extends out to here, which means any units moving along here will have to stop and flip over to battle mode because there's enemy units in the area, whether it be skirmishers or whatever it may be. But that inhibits the movement from using this road as a direct route down here. So that's a key position for them to do that. Now, I could have done that with Early up here, kind of experimenting a little bit to see what position is going to be the best for, trying to hold up and block Grant's advance down the road and down into the Culpeper Plank Road and down to the Orange Turnpike and so forth and so on. All right. So those are the next two moves. Now we're back over to the Grant. Now Griffin's going to slide over there to prevent Early from coming up. And now we're going to jump down here to Heath. Heath is going to move up and go to there to start challenging Wilson down here at Parker Store. Now Parker Store is a pretty key location, and it's in control of the Union cavalry at first. If I zoom in on this here a little bit, you'll see why it's so strategic. You can see the road network that is right here. You've got two main roads intersecting here, and then you've got 1, 2, 3 minor roads or trails that are also intersecting over here as well. So control of this will allow the Confederates to continue to block the Union coming down from the north, and they'll have to bounce even further to the east to try to get down to this particular hex down here. That's what needs to be controlled. So Heath's going to come up to try to push out Wilson from that particular location there at Parker Store. Okay, let's move along. Let's see. USA move. Yep, here we go. So now we've got Griffin B down here moving out. And he's going to come along and actually come over in here and flip. So now Griffin has established a blocking line to prevent Early from getting up here to extend any type of zone of influence over the Culpeper Plank Road right here, and preventing them from doing that. Now they've already got Hampden over here, but they're going to be challenged here in the near future. So next, the Confederates are going to move, and now we're going to get Early, and he's going to actually shift into the woods, and that's an actually very good move there, because now he will have to change into battle mode. He's now in the zone of influence. So now these two units are actually locked. They cannot move for the rest of the turn because they're in the zone of influence of each other. That's actually a good move for early because he moves into defensible terrain. Woods is a defensible terrain and gives him a bonus. Meanwhile, Griffin B is in open terrain, which doesn't give him any defensive bonus. Okay, back to the USA. Now we get Wadsworth, who's going to come down here and challenge Hampden. You can see he jumps into a battle line and moves into there. Now it's a CSA move. Heath is going to come up. Again, he's going to challenge by moving into the zone of control of Wilson. That actually forces Wilson to deploy into a battle mode. So he's actually locked in here now. And that's actually good because now he can't move around and Confederates can now form up a battle with other units moving up. Now it's going to be back over to the USA. And we're going to get Wadsworth doing the same thing over with Hampden. He's already in battle mode with him, so they're going to be locked. And now we go to the CSA, and we're going to get more of Heath's units up. He's on the road, so we can do 8 points. Back to Wadsworth. He's going to come up. Now, this is an important move here as well. Let's zoom in on this so you can see the details of this. You can see Wadsworth moving up to support his other half of the division, the B division that moved up to engage Hampden. So Wadsworth is moving up here. Now he's going to have to flip, but in this particular position, he's actually giving support to Wadsworth B, and that's going to be a combat bonus for them when they go up, when they attack Hampden's cavalry over here. Not to say that's going to be a very big bonus, but it's helpful. So now let's zoom back out and go to our next move. And that's going to be a CSA move, moving up Heath again. And now back to the USA. And now we're going to start moving some of the 2nd Corps back into the zone of control, move down the Brock Road. They're going to stop there. And now the Confederates are moving up with Heath again. And now we've got some more of the 2nd Corps moving. And now he's coming up there. Now that's also an important move because he was in a supportive position, but now he's even in a bigger position because now he's actually attacking with his division. So let's zoom in on that. And you can see Heath B and Heath A are now both attacking Wilson's cavalry. This gives them an even bigger bonus, not only support, but actually a 2-pronged attack. So that's actually going to get yet another bonus that we'll see within there. And again, Wilson is locked in here. He cannot move. Now we can get other units up there, but we need to get another cavalry to support him if we want to get some defensive combat bonus. Whoops, that's a little bit too far, isn't it? There we go. So now let's keep going on here. It's a USA move. We're going to move up Barlow B, and he's going to go into battle mode because he's in the zone of influence of Fitzhugh Lee's cavalry. And now Fitzhugh Lee is going to back off and come over here to a better blocking position to hopefully prevent Union reinforcements to come out and help Wilson down here, Parker Store. Now, why is that important? Let's just zoom in just a hair. And you can see why. Because, see, he's here. His zone of influence goes out 2 points. So now he's extending his zone of influence over that road network and that intersection right there. It's not in there, but it just means that if anybody moves in there, they have to stop. They can't get all the way down the road to support him. And it would take time for them to get in there. So that's actually a good position for Fitzhugh Lee for the immediate moment because he can block over there. Now you may say, well, what about this road network coming down here to get around him? Well, a couple things. We've got W.H.F. Lee down here holding off at the edge of this creek. So he's blocking over there. And then also you got to remember, too, is that the Union only has a certain amount of area that they can freely move in. And you can see here's the boundary. and Barlow is right at the edge of the boundary. So all the moves have to be over in this blue area, or going towards that blue area if they want to, continue to move. So they can't really bounce around here. So this right flank at the moment is quite protected because they just can't get around, and the area that they can move in is very limited. So positioning Fitzhugh Lee's cavalry over here provides a nice little buffer here to prevent them from coming around the flank. So moving along. So let's go up here. Let's actually zoom out a little bit. We're going to take Barlow A, and they're going to come down and challenge that move. But of course, they have to stop right there. And now move on. And now it's Confederate move. So now we're going to get Wilcox coming up from the 3rd Corps. And then we're going to have Barlow B slowly moving along. Now this, you can see the effects of being in battle line, trying to move. You can only move 1 hex at a time. Most hex locations is just 1 point, so it's a very easy method for that. If we look at the terrain chart real quick here, you'll see here's the effects, here's the terrain, here's the formation effects, combat effects, and zone of influence, zone of control. Basically just the effect. Everything's pretty much 1 movement point, but you can see the change of, you can see the effects on the units. Either they have to flip to a battle mode, or stop, or something to that effect. So it's more of limiting the unit as opposed to consuming a lot of points and doing a lot of calculations there. Okay, moving along. CSA move. We've got Wilcox coming up again. He's going to come up to support. Parker Store is really key, so we're going to try to get Wilcox up here too and really push Wilson away. And now we've got some more Union movement. Now, he started in a zone of influence. That's okay. He's moving out, so he doesn't have to flip, and he can move along. But the guys behind him have a bigger problem. Now we'll come to the Confederates. Here comes Wilcox. Now, he should have flipped in the last turn. That was my mistake, but, it all worked out in the end. He just moves 1. And then we've got USA move. And he's going to go over here. Birney comes down. And again, he's got to stop right there, because you can see that's the edge of his movement. Or his maneuver range. Now we're going to get Wilcox moving again. And then we're going to get Birney. What's he doing here? Yeah, he can't do it. I started going that way, and he's out of range, and then I backed it up. So he's going to get Birney's other unit coming down the road here as well. And it's very nice. It allows, this whole range thing allows for units to be restricted, but still have a very large area to potentially maneuver. But you've got to figure that out as part of your command decisions at the start of the turn. And now we have some more Union infantry, 2nd Corps. This is Gibbon moving down. And now we have Wilcox, the 2nd Wilcox, or Wilcox A, I believe that is. He's going to move over into a blocking position there as well. Now we've got Gibbon B coming down. And now we're going to get Rhodes moving up. And he's going to come over here to try to fill in the gap between 2nd Corps and 3rd Corps. And now you see one of the effects of the zone of control. You see that Crawford B, if he moves into here, he's got to stop. So he's got to take these side roads to get around. And you can see there's a lot more movement that's going to need to be required to get around that blocked hex, or that hex that has a zone of control. All right, so here we come, Gibbon again. And one thing you notice too is that units can continue to move as long as they are not next to another enemy unit. They can move as many times as you want across the turn. And now you see Barlow, he's going to engage Fitzhugh Lee over here, like so. So Lee's going to flip over. Now he won't be able to move. And hopefully we'll get Barlow B down there. And then we'll get Confederate movement. And here they come. And here comes Barlow B, slowly but surely. Confederate move. And we're kind of getting down to the end here a little bit. Union's getting around there. And now early B is now going to engage to try to lock in Griffin here. And some more U.S. units moving around, trying to bypass. All right, so that's where the CSA has passed. All right, they've done all the movement that they want. They're in a good position, and they do seem to be in a good position. They've got some reserves down here with Johnson and Rhodes. They're not committed. And then we've got Early and Hampton up here committed to a blocking position. Same with Fitzhugh Lee. And then Wilcox is positioning over here to support the cavalry here on the right. So it's not bad. So when they pass, the Union is now going to get a maximum of 19 moves. He does a dice roll and then adds up all his kind of free movement units. And I believe he wound up with, let's see here. Yeah, he wound up with 19. Didn't show the dice roll, but that's okay. He did wind up with 19 movement. Well, he probably won't use them all, but we'll see. So now the USA can just continue moving. And here we go. We're going to get Greg's cavalry back in command. And then we're going to get Gibbon. And then a few more movements here. I'm just going to go through these kind of quickly. You can see Crawford moves up. Now, this is kind of an awkward one because he can support because he's both 5th Corps, but he's not going to get the bigger bonus because he's not part of the same division. And now we're moving up. Some more units. Try to get around, and then some more coming around. These are 5th Corps. And now here comes 6th Corps. And now we have 7 moves left. And now we're going to move him down. He's going to move over onto the road to prevent anybody coming up the backside there. And then a few more moves, and I think that's it. So that's all the movement. So where did we end up with this? So you can see here, Grant is pretty much still along the Germanna Plank Road and Culpeper Plank Road, holding Wilderness Tavern over here, and pushing down the Orange Plank Road, as well as engaging the cavalry that's in front of him. From the Confederate perspective, they're setting up blocking positions and setting up reserves. Heath is going into attack against Parker Store, against Wilson's at Parker Store, and then Wilcox is setting up for defense over here. So now we get into the attack, and the Confederates are first to attack. So how this works is that we're going to take Heath down here first. And I'm going to zoom in here a little bit so you can see it. So we're going to take Heath A right here, and he's going to set up for the attack. So let's bring up the player aid card here again and take a look at this battle rating summary right here on the left. Scroll that over a little bit so you can see it. So here's how we calculate the battle ratings for both sides. We'll take a look at every unit has a base firepower, for lack of a better word, of 1. We can add in artillery. Now, artillery is tracked up here on our tracks. We're going to add in artillery, which we have a set amount. In this battle, both sides have 19 steps of artillery. We're going to add in that artillery, which gets us another 3 points for the attack. Heath B over here is now in support, so he will actually contribute 2 more points, and he will also contribute the integrity. Now, 2 things we don't have is we don't have troop quality. That's where the star comes in, and we'll see that a little bit later. And we also can't contribute in the command or the leadership stars on here. So when you add them all up, is 1 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1 gives us 7. So that's going to be the attack strength for Heath, is going to be 7. And then we look at the defense strength of Wilson's cavalry. Again, base of 1. Cavalry can't use any artillery, but they can use terrain. So there's defensible terrain, which is the woods. So it's going to be plus 3. Now he doesn't have any support, so it's going to end there at 4. So he's going to have 3 plus 4. So the defense strength is 4. The attack strength is 7. So what we're going to do is look over here on our tactical position determination and our battle rating 7, battle rating 4. We're going to roll a couple of dice here. So the first one's going to be the attackers. He's going to roll a 4, which is average. He's going to get an A, all right, which means attacker advantaged. Excuse me. Yeah, he's going to have an advantage. Now Wilson's going to do the same thing, but look on the 4 column. He rolls Wilson's cavalry. He rolls a 9. Ooh, so 9 on the 4 is an A. So now both are at advantage. So what does that mean? We're going to come over here and look at the attack results table and look at attacker position here at the top, A, defender position, A, and you notice it says attacker retreats with a little cross there as a footnote, which is if the defender is in defensible terrain, fieldworks, fort, or entrenchment, roll a 1d6 on a explosion, attacker is blown. On a retreating guy, the attacker retreats. So it's an attacker retreat, which means Heath fails. And now we've got to roll on this dice right here. And they roll a retreat. Sorry. They roll a retreat. So he's going to retreat up to 3 hexes, but he can stop after 2 if it's defensible terrain. So he's going to retreat 1, 2. That's defensible terrain, so he can stop right there. And that's it. That's how an attack works. So that's pretty easy, pretty quick in terms of how it works. I'll probably speed through some of these others just for the sake of time. So let's take a look at the next ones. USA's turn to attack. And now we're going to have Wadsworth up here go against Hampden up here. So let's zoom in on him. And I've got the calculations already done. So Wadsworth is going to attack. He's going to use his artillery. So he's going to 1 plus 3. He's got integrity with his sister unit right there. So that makes 5. So their attack is 5. Hampden's cavalry, because he's Hampden's defense, because he's cavalry, will not get any artillery. So it'll be base of 1 plus terrain is 3. So it's a 4, 5 to 4. So that's going to yield us a 6 and a 6, which is both an advantage and an advantage. Again, attacker retreats with a blown check. So we're going to roll our dice, and Wadsworth B is actually blown. So what does that mean? What does that mean when he's actually blown? He is going to be removed from the board, and he's going to be placed over here in the blown units. All right, and at the end of the turn, blown units are not eliminated. Blown units are just disordered, pushed back. They need time to recover. So what's going to happen is he is going to be able to return 2 turns later. So eventually at the end of the turn, we will place him on our turn track, back over here, 2 turns from when he left. He left here, this one, so he'll come over here on the morning of May the 6th, over here. So we'll return him over here. So he's not totally eliminated, but he's out of the battle for the moment. Okay, so far both of our cavalries, both Union and Confederate, have held out against Union attacking advances. And this is where the combat system, and kind of what threw me initially, was shown that it is definitely skewed a little bit more towards the defense than it is the attacker. The attacker, needs to get the units there, but they also need to get the dice rolls to actually get some success. So both of these attacks did not get very good dice rolls for the attackers, and that's where we are. So let's go over to the CSA. CSA doesn't have any more attacks. They could attack Griffin or Crawford over here, but that's a little dangerous because early is unsupported, and as we said, attacking is harder unless you get some good dice rolls and you really stack up the units to attack. So Kvet's going to pass. That means the Union will get the rest of them. So the Union rolls 1 dice and adds in 3. They'll have 6 attacks. I don't think we'll have 6 attacks. I think the next one's going to be Barlow over here. Yeah, it's going to be Barlow right over here. So that's going to look like this. Barlow B, that's this guy right here. He's going to be the lead attacking unit. So he's going to base a 1. They'll use artillery, makes 4. He has troop quality. That's where the star comes in now. He's got a little star there. For each one of those stars, we can add 1 to our attack strength or defense strength. He also has support from his brethren right there, and he also has integrity from them. So their attack is going to be an 8. That's pretty good. And then Fitzhugh Lee's defense is going to be similar to what we've seen before. It's going to be 1 plus the terrain is 4. So it's 8 to 4. Barlow rolls a 1. Oh, that's horrible. And then Fitzhugh Lee rolls a 4, which is okay for him. So Barlow gets a D. Fitzhugh Lee gets an A. That's a disadvantage, advantage, and the attacker retreats, and a blown check. So they roll, and he's blown. So Barlow B goes into the blown track for the USA side. USA is done. And that's it for them. So now let's stop this here. Let me go back and show you on the game turn tracks. See, now I've moved Barlow and Wadsworth over to the 6 a.m. turn. Now, one thing that you got to be careful about is all these move 2 turns over. Anything lost on the morning of the 6th are going to be blown, but also eliminated because there's no more turns after this to go to. So you got to be careful about later attacks because that can cost you in terms of your units and potentially victory points in the end. So very interesting, very enjoyable, particularly if you're playing opposed. I invite you to take a look at some of our live stream videos that I'm doing at Hex and Hex. Doing the next module of this game called the Army of the Potomac, which is on a much grander scale, dealing with the 1862 and 1864 battles. But they're very interesting, and when you play opposed, you're playing against somebody else, and it's really quite the back and forth in terms of maneuvering and positioning for this, and positioning yourself in the right spot to prevent your opponent from getting your advantage on here as well. In terms of this one, you can see we're still in our first turns. Union's moving forward. Confederates are looking to defend and keep the Union from doing that, as well as potentially trying to get a strategic victory up there. It's a little tricky, but we'll see how it goes. So hopefully you enjoyed this first video. I know this is running a little bit longer because I was doing a little bit more explanations with this, but stay tuned for the May 5th PM turn on the next video, where I'll go through and play that out too, and you can see what happens and see if Grant makes it down there or if Lee stops him, and we continue on to Spotsylvania. So thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment. Always like your comments, and I always try to reply to your comments, and also check out some of the live streams that we've done both in history and coming up here in the future. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next one.